أكبر الله أكبر حي على الصلاة.
Alright, has given the most high praise to Allah and the highest honors to his Prophet Noble Dwelling. I'd also like to extend honors to our Moorish flag, which reminds us of the standard that we are to uphold, Islam. And I'd also like to extend honors to the United States banner, Islam.
Islam.
I will start by reading from a chapter that I always read from. It's one of my favorite chapters. And our brother Yosef has demonstrated it as well, but I am going to repeat a part of it because we can't hear it enough. The message that's in this chapter. We're going to read from chapter 7. When you have it, say Islam.
Islam.
Islam. We're going to start from verse 9. The things we see are but reflexes, just appearing, while the ethers vibrate so, and when conditions change, they disappear. The holy breath is truth, is that which was, and is, and evermore shall be. It cannot change nor pass away. Lamah said, "You answer well. Now what is man?" And Jesus said, "Man is truth and falsehood strangely mixed. Man is the breath made flesh. So truth and falsehood are conjoined in him. And they strive, and naught goes down, and man as truth abides." So this is very important, and it goes back into the brother Yosef. We were kind of on the same wavelength tonight as well, because it's important that we remember that we have a decision to choose, or we have the obligation to choose. And in us, as man, or including women, we have truth and we have falsehood. So every day, every moment, we have that ability to choose whether we want to love or we want to hate. And Islam, now I'm going to read from our 101s. Islam, and if you have them with you, please read along. I'm going to call out the questions and you all can respond. Islam, and we're going to start at key 64. And if you have them with you, please say Islam when you get there.
Islam.
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 Islam. And I'm just going to call out now, ask that you all respond. And we're going to start with key 64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve.
Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast.
What is the devil sometimes called?
The lower self.
How many selves are there?
2.
Name them.
Higher self, the lower self.
What people represent the higher self?
The angels who protect the holy city of Mecca.
What people represent the lower self?
Those who were cast out of the holy city of Mecca, and those who accept their teachings.
Islam. What is the higher self?
The higher self is the mother of all virtues and the harmonies of life, and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right.
Can the higher self pass away?
No.
Why?
Because of Allah and man.
What does the lower self breed?
Hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything in arms.
What did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him?
Where are you going, Satan?
What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self?
I'm going to and fro the earth, seeking who I may devour.
Has he finished his task of devouring?
Yes.
Islam. So I'll stop right there, and then I'll also go back into our Holy Quran, and we'll read from chapter 3, and we'll begin at verse 5. And it says, "There are 2 selves, the higher and the lower self. The higher and the lower self. The higher self is human spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self, the carnal self, the body of desires, is a reflection of the higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of flesh. The lower self is an illusion and will pass away. The higher self is Allah and man and will not pass away. The higher self is the embodiment of truth. The lower self is truth reversed, and so is falsehood. The higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. The lower self is what the higher self is not. The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, theft, and everything that harms. The higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life. The lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessedness and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but gives unrest, misery, and death. It gives men apples that are lovely to the eye and pleasant to the smell, but their cores are full of bitterness and gall. If you would ask me what to study, I would say yourselves. And when you have well studied them and asked me and then would ask me what to study next, I would reply yourselves. Islam. He who knows well his lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows of the things that pass away, and he who knows his higher self knows Allah, and knows well the things that cannot pass away. Thrice blessed is the man who has made purity and love his very own, or that oneness of mind. He has been ransomed from the perils of the lower self and is himself his higher self. Men seek salvation from an evil that they deem a living monster of the netherworld. And they have gods that are but demons in disguise, all powerful, yet full of jealousy and hate and lust, whose favors must be bought with costly sacrifice of fruits and of the lives of birds and animals and of humankind. And yet these gods possess no ears to hear, no eyes to see, no heart to sympathize, no power to save. This evil is a myth. These gods are made of air, clothed with shadows of a thought. There's that word thought again. The only devil from which men must be redeemed is self, the lower self. If man would find his devil, he must look within. His name is self. If man would find his savior, he must look within. And when the demon self has been dethroned, the savior, love, will be exalted to the throne of power. The David of the light is purity, who slaying the strong Goliath of the dark, who slayed the strong Goliath of the dark, and seats the Savior love upon the throne. Islam. And I would like to draw from one of our Sunday school discussions, which if you haven't been to Sunday school, I would suggest you come. It's a very empowering session where we all sit in our circle at Sunday school and kind of reflect on what these teachings really mean. And we have teachings on that key 64, and that is give the 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve, and that's Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. And we'll touch on the definition of devil first. The definition or the meaning coming from the word diablo, which means to come out of, and then also referencing back to Iblis in the Bible, or in the Quran, excuse me. And basically that reminds me that basically Diablo, meaning to come out of, is to separate yourself. And we also have the, basically to separate yourself. And we also have the meaning of Lucifer, which means the light bearer, or the bearer of light. And I want to read from our Piscean text as well. Islam. 1 second, I'll pull it up. And we're going to read from, if you have it, Genesis chapter 3, starting at verse 1, when I find it. And it says, "Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. For God doth know that in the day that ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And so this is that light, or that information, that representation of what, or it's a representation of light or information that may not have, should have been revealed to Eve at that particular time. Islam. And I'm going to go back to our circle 7. And I'm jumping all over the place.
Islam.
Islam. And I'm going to read from chapter 44. Chapter 44, starting at verse 19. And last week we spoke of divine rights and divine obligations. And this is touching on a duty of ours. It says, starting at verse 19 in chapter 44, it says, reflection is the business of man. Sense of his state is his first duty. So before you show up to the temple regularly, before you, if you're Sunni, before you pray 5 times a day, before you, dhikr Allah, the way you remember Allah, the first sense is reflection of yourself, reflection of your current state. But who remembereth himself a boy? Is it not in mercy, then, that the sorrow is allotted unto us? Man foreseeth the evil that is to come. He remembereth it when it is past. He considereth not that the thought of affliction wounded deeper than the affliction itself, which goes back into what our brother was saying, our brother Joseph was saying, is that our thoughts, if you think that you're in poverty, if you think that your condition can't be better, then it won't be better. But if you think of those higher virtues, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, then you will start to be those higher virtues. It says, think not of thy pain, but when it is upon me. So if there is an ill upon you, then you think of it, and you figure out how to get yourself out of it. And thou shalt avoid, I'm going to start the sentence over. Think not of thy pain, but when it is upon thee, but when it is upon thee, and thou shalt avoid what hurt thee most, what most hurt thee, He who weepeth before he needeth, weepeth more than he needeth. And why? But that he loveth weeping. Islam. So this is, I didn't read the beginning of the chapter. It's the holy instructions from the Prophet on misery. So some of us, we do love to complain. We do love to, speak negatively about others. We love our suffering. We've taken on our suffering as if it's us. You know how some people will say, well, things can be going good, but something bad is always bound to happen. You have to reject that. You have to understand that you're a creator and you create your own circumstances. So we'll read that again. He who weepeth before he needeth, weepeth more than he needeth. And why? But that he loveth weeping. The stag weepeth not till the spear is lifted against him, nor do the tears of the beaver fall, till the hound is ready to seize him. Man anticipateth death, but apprehension of it, and the fear is greater misery than the event itself. So there are certain times where we may be so afraid of a thing that we just keep ourselves from doing it. Like, I'll give the example of me a long time ago, the first time riding a roller coaster. I thought everything bad was going to happen. My thing was going to fly up, or the roller coaster was going to get stuck upside down. But that fear, it controls you so much more than actually just getting on the roller coaster and actually doing it. So we have to remove that fear of actually uniting with our brothers and sisters, building our nation, building our people up. We have to get rid of that fear. What's the worst that can happen from uniting with your sister? From saying, Islam, I'm going to demonstrate love to my brother. What's the worst that can happen from that? So we have to get rid of that fear that we have of uniting with each other.
That's right.
Be always prepared to give an account for thine action, and the best death is that which is least premeditated. So if we set out to do something, we have to do it. And I will leave you with a little parable from a speaker, the brother's name, the elder's name, Dr. Azrael Ben Yehuda, last week. He said that there was a prophecy, correct me if I'm wrong, I may need a little help, but there was a prophecy, or there was a man that said by 12 o'clock midnight, that window's going to be broken. Let's just say it's a window back there. That window's going to be broken. The difference between, I'll use different terms than he used, but the difference between an active person and a passive person, or a person that uses their thought and a person that doesn't use their thought, is that at midnight or 11:59, if that window's not broken, they're going to take it upon themselves to go ahead and break that window. But the passive person is going to sit back and pray and hope that the window is broken. You know, so we have to be active with our thoughts. And I am going to read one more thing from the Circle 7, chapter 7 again. And then I'll yield the floor back to our chairman. And I'm going to start at verse 19 this time. Again, Lamas asked, of understanding, what have you to say? And Jesus said, it is the rock on which man builds himself. It is the gnosis of the ought and of the not, of falsehood and of truth. And I'll read that again. Verse 20, it says, and Jesus said, it is the rock on which man builds himself. It is the gnosis of the ought and the not, of falsehood and truth. It is the knowledge of the Lord self, the sensing of the powers of man himself. So this is me knowing that I know now, because I'm in the temple and I frequent the temple, I'm faithful to the temple. This is me knowing that my thought can change my circumstance. But there's another step. It says, again, Lamas asked, of wisdom, what have you to say? And Jesus said, it is the consciousness that man is ought, that Allah and man are one, that not is not, that power is but an illusion, that heaven and earth and hell are not above, around, below, but in, which in the light of ought becomes the not, and Allah is all. Lamas asked, pray, what is faith? And Jesus said, faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah and man, the certainty that man will reach deific life. So that's that clear conception. That's that idea that I'm going to reach deific life because Allah said so.
Islam.
Because my thoughts will guide me there. It's not going to come. You're not going to think, like the brother said, as a Negro, black and colored, 6 days a week, and then come to the temple on Friday and think that you're just going to, you know, elevate yourself to deific life. This is every waking moment, every moment, even in your sleep. Which is why it's important to say your prayers or to say your meditations before you go to sleep, so that when you go to sleep, you're still dreaming about that deific life.
Islam.
Salvation is a ladder reaching from the heart of man to the heart of Allah. It has 3 steps. Belief is first, and this is what man thinks perhaps is true. That's when you're still kind of shaky. And faith is next, and this is what man knows is true. This is when you come in and you begin to do that work and build that foundation on which you understand is truth. Fruition is last, and this is man himself, the truth. Belief is lost in faith, and in fruition, faith is lost. And man is saved when he has reached deific life, when he and Allah are one. Islam. And I will leave you as I came in.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Hayya ala salah.